Hey gang, my name's John Van Bruggen, and wanted to tell you that back in 1993, I was hired at Hutch Fire Department there, started my probationary training, and served about 9.5 years there, left in February of '02, and so I certainly have a heart for you guys, and love to see the big red trucks run up and down the road. And if you look real close, I'm not sure because Station 1's closed now and it was open when I was there. Anyway, I'm not sure where they keep the records. Maybe some of the chief officers would know. But man, my personnel file, by the time I left 9.5 years later, my personnel file was so thick that they were using it as a wheel chalk on Quint 1 when it was still in service. So I don't know if they bronzed that thing and like put it up on a shelf somewhere. I don't know, but if you could go check that out, it might be worth the read, is what I'm saying. When I was a fireman, man, we still used 10 codes, had just kind of moved into that plain talk thing. And so when you take a bunch of firefighters that are used to doing it one way, 10-4 this, 10-8 this, 10-6 this, or 10-39 en route to, when you change all of that, make them use plain talk, some of the older, more salty guys got pretty creative with the plain talk that they used. And I'm sure that some of those stories are probably still circulating around the stations. They're definitely worth hearing. I remember when the gas emergencies happened. So, for those of you guys that don't know, they were storing gas in a big underground cavern, and there was a leak in the cavern somewhere, and they were losing pressure on the head of that, and didn't understand why. And the gas was moving through the shale layers, through the salt dirt layers that are surrounding this area, and it found an exit. It found a way to get up, and it came up into a store and hit the pilot light, and boom, store blew up. So regular day, regular morning, nothing going on, nothing to make you think that this day was going to be different than the other day. And the next thing you know, you got an explosion downtown, bricks laying all over the street, glass all over a 3-block radius, and you had no idea why. And it was like, go time right now. Was the gas emergency continued and we started to learn more about it, what we realized is that this escaping gas was underneath the city of Hutchinson, and it started to come up in all of these different places. And so it was kind of a scary time because you didn't know where that gas was going to come up. And there was other explosions, and there was a time where the folks were coming in from the Middle East, and they were putting in these, man, I don't even remember what it was called, but they were putting in these towers that were tapping the old gas wells and then flaming them at the top. And so all over the city at night, all over Hutchinson at night, you would see all of these flaming gas wells all over the place, and it just lit the city in this big eerie glow. Surreal time. But to be a fireman at that time meant that you went to work and you weren't sure what was going to happen that day. You didn't know if it was going to be a normal day, if you were going to get to play that practical joke that you had planned. You didn't know if the $5 that you threw in the kitty to go to Dillon's to get food was going to be enough for the chili or for the pizza or for the burgers, whatever was going on. You didn't know because there was all of a sudden a sense of unrest and unknowing and some trepidation and some fear, because that could be the day that gas thing blows up in such a way that you don't come home the same way that you went to work. And that was a real deal. I mean, that was a real thing. I mean, all of us felt it, and nobody stayed home. Everybody buttoned up their shirt. They put on their bunker pants the way they were supposed to. They got on the truck like they always did, and we answered every alarm. And I know that's what you guys are doing today. And I want to commend you for that. I want to thank you for that. But here's the thing. I get that firemen are half crazy or you wouldn't even want that job. I mean, so there is a 10-foot tall bulletproof part of our persona that attracted us to that job in the first place. And you don't want to rip that part out, all right? You don't want that part to go away. And most firemen that I know and the firemen that I was never really fearful for me. I was fearful for those that were around me, and I was fearful for what would happen to my wife, to my kids, to my family if something did happen to me. So the fear wasn't so much self-centered as much as it was I knew that I was at the nucleus of a circle, and if I took that nucleus away because of disaster, because of a gas explosion, because of a virus, what would happen to those that were around that. And that's a real thing. It's a real fear. I get that. Nothing wrong with that, okay? Nothing wrong with that. Firemen, I think, have a healthy understanding of what they do for a living. And they also have a healthy understanding of the fear that they have of how that job comes home. Man, we love our wives. We love our kids. We love our families. But this is a hard job. It's a hard life. There's a built-in stress to this that is unlike anything else that anybody else does. Now, I know the policemen are similar, okay? The paramedics are similar. The men and women that are working in the ICU units and stuff, man, they get it. They get it. But firemen, it's kind of always been the thing. An old fire captain of mine used to say, what I love about being a fireman is that when somebody in the community needs help and they don't know who to call, they call us. And I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true. So as firemen, we're kind of jack of all trades. You got to know a little this, a little that, a little that, which means it puts you into danger of a little of that, and a little of that, a little of that, a little of that. So you're more exposed than a lot of people are exposed. And while that fear doesn't seem to rest here, it projects to the ones we love. I get it. I get it. The thing about fear is this. If we don't transform our fear into something else, then we're going to transmit our fear onto the ones that we love. So one of the worst things we can do is go home and unload our fear, unload our stress, unload all of that stuff onto our wife, onto our kids. And maybe not in like a counseling session where you're laid out on the couch and mama's sitting in a chair and you're saying, and then my captain said to me, I don't mean it like that. I mean, you're short. You're short with your kids. You're short with your wife. You snap when you normally wouldn't. You're transmitting your fear into how you react to certain situations. See, I have this firm belief. I call it the 4 T's. Anything that we can choose a response to, it's either a test, a trial, a tribulation, or a temptation. Doesn't matter what it is, anything. Honey, can you get up and do the dishes? Okay, you could choose there. You could choose. So how you choose to respond to that is either unloading your fear. It's either transmitting your fears for your wife onto her in an unhealthy reaction, or it's in a healthy reaction. So anything we could choose a response to, test, trial, temptation, tribulation. It shows whether we are transformed or not. So here's the thing. I do preach, okay? And so I'm involved with the church. And what I tell Christian guys all the time about the 4 T's is that how we respond to these 4 T's is about who we truly are on the inside. So Christians, church guys, sometimes spend a lot of time trying to figure out who the author is of the thing that is afflicting them, the test, the trial, the tribulation, the temptation. And I think a lot of that is because, we're Americans. And Americans are always trying to find a place to drop the blame. Well, why has this happened? Well, I don't know. Who's to blame for it? Well, sometimes the answer is, who cares? Who's to blame for it? How do we respond to this? And how do we move on to the next thing? All right, so tests, trials, temptations, and tribulations in our life, I don't think we should spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out who the author is of this. Is this the devil attacking me? Is this God testing me? Or is this just because my battalion chief doesn't like me? I don't know that we should really spend a whole lot of time trying to figure all that out, as much as we should understand that our response to these things should always be the same. So in one sense, in a non-spiritual sense, as we're talking about fear, I'm telling you, you got to transform your fear into something else so it doesn't transmit into bad reactions to the 4 T's. If you're a man of faith, I would tell you this. How you respond to those things is exactly the same. So if God is testing you, your response is to pray. If the devil is tempting you, your response is to pray. If your battalion chief doesn't like you, your response is to pray. Doesn't matter who the author of that is. It matters how I respond to that. Now, I know there's a lot of self-help stuff out there, and I get it. And honestly, I don't read a lot of that because I think it's a bunch of garbage. I don't think we were created to self-help. I think we were created to help others. So here's my helping others part. In order to transform your fear, your anxiety, your stress into something that is healthy, you have to give it to somebody. Giving that to your wife or giving that to your kids or to your loved ones, your brothers, your sisters, your parents, whatever it may be, oftentimes gets projected in an unhealthy way. If we are giving that to Christ, all right, if we're giving that to Christ through confession, through repentance, through our prayers, through our scripture reading, we're physically saying, Lord, take this from me. What we are doing is offering Jesus the very thing Jesus went to the cross so that he could take, so that he could receive from us. You know, it's kind of funny that the universal symbol for Christianity is the cross. Now, whether that includes a crucifix or not, the universal symbol is the cross. You can't look at a cross without seeing an instrument of suffering. So as a Christian looks at the cross, what he should be getting back from that is not only did Jesus die on that cross, but so should I. Jesus said, if you want to follow after me, you got to bear your cross. In other words, he's saying, hey man, you're going to suffer. Why? Because life is hard and it's going to continue to be hard. It's what it is. Now, to give that unto the Lord, to give those fears, that stress, that anxiety unto the Lord means that we can receive love, joy, and peace back despite the fact that life is hard. Let me try to put all that in an easy way to understand, all right? Hey, life ain't going to change. Life ain't going to change. The situations, your tests, your trials, your temptations, your tribulations are going to continue. Do you want to go through those with anger and with bitterness and with jealousy? Or do you want to go through them with love and with joy and with peace? Because that's really your choice, because you're going to go through them either way. So, life is hard. It's difficult. You're going to be afflicted with test, trial, temptation, tribulation, the 4 T's. You could either go through it the hard way or you could go through it the easy way. But either way, you're going through it. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. My appeal to you as firefighters in Hutchinson is this. Take that thing that God already gave you. Take that thing where you're not afraid for yourself. It isn't about serving yourself that you would don the boots and wear the helmet. That's not why you started. You became a firefighter because you wanted to help and serve others. Well, to help and serve others as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a citizen, you give that to the Lord so that what you're giving to everybody else is love, joy, and peace, despite the fact that all of us are going through test, trial, temptation, tribulation. Now, does that make sense? I mean, as my fire department brethren, kind of. I've been removed for a while. Does that make sense? I think it does. I think it does make sense. So here's what I want to ask you to do. Tonight, when you go to bed and you lay down and your head hits the pillow, you always have this little bit of trepidation in the back of your head that the alarm's going to go off and off to the truck that you go. But here I want you to think about this tonight. Lord, how can I unload to you, the one who hung on the cross for all of us, my fears, my tests, my trials, my temptations, my tribulations? How can I give all of those things to you, Lord, so that I can receive back the goodness that I need to serve my community well? That's the question that you ask. I appreciate your time. You guys are awesome. Keep up the good work, and I hope things go well. This is HFD number 61. I'm 10-8.